Hi. I've posted a few videos now, and I've posted some selected readings in videos that I like to call bedtime stories. And I did post a video the other evening of a story I wrote myself, but I thought for tonight I would go back to another one of my favorite books. This is the autobiography of Dixie Carter, a phenomenal actress. We all know her from Designing Women. She played Julia Sugarbaker. It's a wonderful book, and if you haven't had the opportunity to read it, it's called Trying to Get to Heaven, The Opinions of a Tennessee Talker, and the book tells of her, not only her rise to a prominent place in show business, but also the years of her childhood and growing up in a tiny little town in West Tennessee called Macklemoresville. And I thought that I would read for you my favorite passage, which I tend to be a big fan of the final passages of books, and that's what I'm going to read for you tonight. It is the last passage of Trying to Get to Heaven, and it concerns Dixie Carter's deep and abiding love and admiration for the generations of women that came before her. I have many memories of my grandmother, Esther Wingo Hillsman. Her tearful prayers of thanks, which I understand now, her manner of getting about, which was full bore at all times, even in her later years when osteoporosis had bent her over and to the side. She traversed even the smallest spaces at a gliding trot. The way she listened to Pepper Young's Family and Lorenzo Jones' Funiculi Funicula on the radio with her chair pulled up very close, her head bent forward to catch every word. The ever-expanding scrapbook she kept about Douglas MacArthur, who reminded her a great deal of her late husband. Her respectful fondness for my father and his family derived from the way they all loved her daughter. Her congenital inability to admit defeat in any area, in life or in discussion, which trait often prompted the conversation closer. Listen to the beautiful bird. Her heroism in the face of whatever came. I remember how she took my baby sister Midge out of my mother's arms when Midge went into convulsions with something we all thought was going to kill her, diagnosed later as poliomyelitis, and put a silver spoon in her mouth so she wouldn't bite her tongue, and held her and walked with her while the ambulance took forever in coming. And when my Uncle Jack, who was there for the summer, said, "What can I do, Mama?" answered, "Get down on your knees and pray, son Jack." And he did. Midge recovered, but that's another story, and a dramatic one. I don't remember being born. However, I do know that grandmother, not the doctor, brought me into the world and pressed my father off to find the doctor before my mother bled to death, and I have always been highly appreciative of both acts. And always the signs and ways that I was reminded that she was the mother of my mother, who was the goddess of all earth to me. My mother, apart from the crowd, not given to overstatement or overfamiliarity, not sentimental, not social, not impressed by the lux, the glitz, not taken in by palaveros. My mother, who knew who she was. My mother, that bluest of blue bloods, besotted with love for her husband, interested in him, their children, and their home. She must have been lonely sometimes, a beautiful and brilliant young woman, married at 22 and isolated in a hamlet of 200 people. But if she was, it was her secret. My mother, for whom her daughter-in-law Margot framed these lines by Stephen Vincent Benet. She was his wife, and her heart was bold as a broad, bright guinea of border gold. Her wit was a tartan of colored weather, her walk was as gallant as Highland heather, and whatever she had, she held together. My mother, who lost almost 6 inches of height the last years of her life, and yet never let it alter her perfectly erect carriage. I see her now as she must be in heaven, tall and strong again and shining. I pray that my daughters will be like their grandmother Jenna. And there it is, the final passage of Dixie Carter's Trying to Get to Heaven, the Opinions of a Tennessee Talker, tonight's bedtime story. And I hope that you'll pick up this book and read it. It's been out since 1996. It is a treasure. And if you like that little passage, you will love the entire book. Thank you for joining me. Good night, YouTubers.